It's important to know what kind of turnouts you have on your model railroad so you don't short things out. So let's see what we're talking about right here. Hi, I'm Tom Kovichak, and this is Tom's Trains and Things. This channel was created to help other modelers who are in need of guidance in pursuing their dream of building a model railroad. Now, there are various types of turnouts with different types of frogs. So it's important to know before you start planning your model railroad which type of turnout that you need. Do you want to have an insulated frog, or do you want a powered frog? Most modelers will go with the insulated frog just to make things a whole lot easier, because you don't have to worry about shorting things out. You don't have to worry about powering the frog. If you want to keep your short locomotives running over top of that frog, all you do is put a keep alive on your locomotive. I thought we would address this video one more time because I ran into a problem with a short, and the problem was with a powered frog that I didn't realize was an Electrofrog. Since all my old turnouts that I've been using on this layout here, I used on my other layout were Insulated, but I did buy some Electrofrogs for the module project that I had, but I never used them. So I pulled them out here and didn't realize that they were Electrofrogs, and I hooked it up and I had a short. But then I had another problem after that, and I'll discuss that at the end of the video. The different brands that I'll be talking about are Pico, Walters, Shinohara, and Atlas. Atlas is basically the simplest one. Most of the older ones have plastic frogs, so you don't have to worry about powering them. Some of the newer ones have metal frogs, and they are not powered unless you hook up the terminal on the side of them. We're going to concentrate on Pico and Walters / Shinohara. I don't have any micro engineering turnouts, so I can't talk about them right here. I have two identical Walters turnouts right here. These are the older versions. They got the Shinohara name on the back. They're curved turnouts. But they are completely different. One of them, the frog is powered all the way through, and the other frog is insulated. And you can't tell the difference on them unless you look very closely. You can see the insulated gap right here and right here. No power is going to that frog unless you power them yourself. You can see on the bottom, there's nothing on there where you could attach any power to it. Now, I did a video a while back, and I'll reference it right here, on how I powered the frogs when they are not powered. So when you have a chance, take a look at them to learn more about it. Since you have the insulators on both sides of the frog, power is routed through your rail from both rails up through here. So this outside curve right here is the same as this right here, the outside curve on this. The inside curve over here is the same as this inside curve right here, but there is no power on this frog whatsoever unless you apply power to it. Here you can see that there are no wires on the bottom of it. The other Walters, you'll see there is no insulator in there. So in other words, the only thing that is powered is your point, and it comes up this far on the outside rail, and on the point up to here on the inside rail. All this right here, there is no power on it whatsoever right now if you have your feeders back here. So you have to put a wire on that frog. All of these tracks right here are connected electrically together along with the frog. So I'm going to refer to that as an electrofrog because that's the same thing on a Pico. And they call it an electrofrog. The frog and these two rails are the same potential. They're all connected together. It's just like taking a wire, running it down here, and running it back up. It's all the same. So that's why you need insulators right here on the inside rails of the turnout. This one right here and this one right here. And you need to apply the power through whatever method you want to do it. You could use a juicer or you could use a relay. I prefer a relay because I'm using Arduino, but that's a different story right there. Now here's a Shinohara / Walters Y, and you'll notice that the gap is right here at the end of the point rail. It's not carried all the way up to here. So there's a difference in the turnouts. Those Shinohara Walters turnouts that I just showed you are the older style. This one right here is a newer style. This is called a DCC friendly, and you'll notice that it is insulated. The frog is insulated, and that's what they're selling right now as DCC friendly. So you don't have to worry about all that stuff. All you have to do is get a keep alive, because this part right here is dead. Now let's talk about Pico. Pico has Insulfrog, Electrofrog, and Unifrog. So the Insulfrog, you'll see there's an insulated joint right here, and the two rails right in here are not touching. There's a piece of plastic in between that. And there is no power on the point of the frog. It's plastic. So if you want to power this, you would have to power these guide rails on there. On the Electrofrog, you can see that there is a wire that connects to the frog, and there is also, if you look closely, there's a gap on these rails right here. But what is deceiving on this is on the back, you'll notice that there are jumpers connecting that gap together. Now, I think the reason they put that in there with this wire here is if when your point is touching the rail down here and it's not making good contact, that you could still power your frog, because whatever direction your points are in, say it's in a straight position, all these rails throughout here are the same potential as this rail right here. So all the way back down to this point right here is the same potential as this rail right here, with those jumpers across that. And whenever you go to converging route, it's just the opposite. You're picking up your power on this point right here. You're transferring your power all the way up through here, and both of these rails, center rails right here, are the same potential. The frog and this rail coming all the way back down to the other point has the same potential as this rail right here. So that's one caveat about the Electrofrog, the Pico Electrofrog, is even though they have a gap there, they put a jumper in the back to carry the power from your point rail up through there. Now, if you want to eliminate that and just use this wire right here to power the frog, you could cut these jumpers back here and power the frog, and this right here and this right here up until the gap from a relay or a frog juicer. But you're still going to need the insulators right here, because what that does on your other track, that makes both tracks on your converging and your straight the same potential whenever it's turned straight. Because you can see, boom, like that, and boom, like that. It just the opposite way. That's where you run into problems. To put it in simpler terms, if this is plus and this is negative, your plus is going all the way up here. But whenever your point is going straight, that makes all of this plus also. So you have plus here and plus here. So at this end of the turnout, it's plus and plus. At this end of the turnout, it's plus and negative. But if you turn it the other way, you have plus and negative, and you'll have plus, negative, negative, negative. That's where you run into a problem. So that's why you need insulators on these two center rails right here, because on the Electrofrog, whichever way your point is turned, you're going to have either 3 positives or 3 negatives up here. So to eliminate that, you need the insulators. And then that way, it's only going to be this far, and you're not going to carry that short past the insulators. Now on the Pico Unifrog, this is a double slip switch right here, and you'll notice there is a wire going to the frog. And if you take a close look at this, you'll see that there is an insulator right here. There's also an insulator right here, and there's a gap between the two rails right here. And the frog is independent. And that's where this wire comes in. This wire powers just that frog right there. These guardrails on both sides of the frog are not powered at all. If you're looking for no hassles in wiring your turnouts with DCC, go with the Walters DCC friendly turnouts or the Pico Unifrogs. I'm going to stick with the Pico Unifrog because that has the shortest distance of the frog that is non-powered if you're not going to hook up the wire to a relay or a frog juicer. So on those short locomotives, you're not going to have any hesitation going through the frog at all. Now here's the unusual problem that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. If you saw my live stream a few weeks ago, you'll notice that I had a double slip switch that had burned up. It melted. Same thing on the back. It doesn't look good. Well, there was a short, okay, but the short wasn't in this double slip switch. So this should not have melted. So there was a problem with this double slip switch. The only way that you would get something to melt like that right there is if these wires that are routing the power from the rail on either side of the frog was too small, and the current going through the wire was too much for the wire. That's the same principle that's used in manufacturing for cutting plastics. The same thing on a foam cutter. You heat up the wire with an excessive amount of current, but not red hot, so it gets hot. So that's what happened here. These wires got hot on here, but they shouldn't have. So I'm going to have to get a hold of Pico to find out what was going on there, because there was no short in here. I checked this afterwards. I checked this beforehand, and there was no short in this double slip switch at all. So the only reason why this thing had to melt was because of excessive current going through those wires. But with the Digitrax system, the DB150, it cuts the power right away whenever there's a short. So either there was a problem with the DB150 that it didn't cut the power, but when I was checking it, the light went out as soon as it started beeping, so you didn't get any track power. So I'm not sure what was going on with this double slip switch right here, why it heated up the wires enough to melt the plastic. The problem that caused the short was an Electrofrog that was beyond the double slip switch. It wasn't the short that caused the melting. So I'm still confused about why that overheated. I hope this helped out in explaining what kind of turnouts and what you do with those turnouts. Don't forget to check out that video that I had mentioned earlier, and I'll put a link to it in the description also. Oh yes, and if you want to power your frog whenever you're using a hand throw, I have a video on that also. So until the next time, we'll see you.